Have you ever looked at a strange mushroom and thought, that looks delicious and also like a tiny forest assassin? Now imagine that thought without a grocery store, without warning labels, without a doctor, and without someone online screaming, do not eat the suspicious forest pancake. Ancient humans faced that question constantly. Is this food, or is this how my story ends? For us, dinner usually comes wrapped in plastic, stamped with ingredients, and protected by rules written by people who understand microbes. For them, dinner was out there growing on a bush, crawling under bark, swimming in a shell, or lying suspiciously beside the trail. Every meal was a little survival quiz. They had to know which plants helped, which berries hurt, which roots needed cooking, which meat had gone bad, and which pretty mushroom was basically nature wearing a cute little villain hat. And they had to learn all this without textbooks, laboratories, or a customer service number for the forest. The cartoon version is simple. One unlucky caveman eats the wrong berry, makes a face like his soul just left the cave, and everyone else writes the lesson into memory. But the real story is better. Ancient humans were not random snack machines with spears. They were expert pattern hunters. They watched the world with the seriousness of detectives and the stomach pressure of people who could not order backup pizza. They noticed where certain plants grew, when fruit appeared, which animals touched it, which foods smelled strange, and what happened after some ate them. Survival began as attention. One clue came from animals. If birds kept eating certain berries and flying away happily, that mattered. If an animal avoided a plant, that also mattered. But this was not perfect. Some animals can eat things that would punish humans terribly. A goat is not a certified nutrition expert. That means ancient people could not just point at a goat and say he survived, therefore science. That is how you get betrayed by livestock. Instead, they combined clues. Animal behavior was one clue. Smell was another. Color, season, texture, location, preparation, and memory all joined the investigation. Smell may have been one of the oldest alarms. Rotten meat releases unpleasant odors as microbes and decay change it. Your disgust response is not just you being fancy. It is a very ancient bodyguard grabbing your face from the inside and saying, please do not chew that. Taste helped too, especially bitterness. Many poisonous plants contain bitter compounds, so humans became cautious around unfamiliar bitter flavors. Not every bitter food is dangerous. Obviously, coffee exists, and millions of people voluntarily drink it while pretending the cup contains personality. But in the wild, bitter meant slow down. Ancient food testing was probably careful and boring on purpose. Smell first, touch carefully, try a tiny amount. Wait, watch the body. Do not host a heroic berry-eating contest because your cousin called you scared. In survival, a little nervous can be much smarter than impressively dead. Imagine the scene. One brave tester takes the smallest nibble of a new berry. Everyone else backs away as if the berry has legal problems. The tribe waits. The tester blinks. The tester burps. The tribe studies that burp like sacred research. This was science with panic eyebrows. Mistakes became memory. If someone got sick after eating a root, the group remembered. If several people got sick, the warning became stronger. Pain is a harsh teacher, but it is very memorable. A bad stomachache can become a family tradition in the worst possible way. Over time, warnings turned into stories. Do not eat those red berries near the swamp. Do not chew that root raw. Do not eat shellfish when it smells strange. Do not trust the pretty mushroom, because pretty does not mean friendly. The story became a rule. The rule saved lives. This is where culture becomes survival technology. Before written recipes, humans had oral knowledge. Parents taught children. Elders corrected beginners. Skilled foragers showed which leaves to pick, which skins to remove, which seeds to pound, and which foods needed fire before they could become dinner. Fire was a massive upgrade. Cooking can kill many parasites and harmful microbes. It can soften tough foods, unlock calories, and reduce some toxins. Fire was not only warmth and light, it was a prehistoric safety tool. Flavor machine and food processing app made of flames. Picture an ancient person roasting a hard, suspicious root. At first, everyone looks at it like a rock pretending to be food. Then it softens, it smells better. Someone tastes it carefully and smiles. Suddenly, the tribe has discovered dinner. That is not luck, that is learning. Humans also learned slower tricks. They soaked foods in water, they peeled bitter skins, they crushed seeds, they dried meat, they smoked fish, they fermented foods, they waited, they repeated, they compared. Time. Heat, water, smoke, and patience became invisible tools in the ancient kitchen. Trial and error mattered, but not as pure chaos. It was more like careful group experimentation without clipboards. The forest was the lab, the fire was the equipment, memory was the notebook. Peer review was the entire tribe staring at a rejected plant with judgmental faces. Social learning may have been the greatest shortcut. Humans are emotional copy machines. If everyone in your group avoids a plant, you avoid it too. You do not need to personally interview every poisonous berry. That would be a terrible lifestyle and a very short bloodline. Children learn by watching. Which plants did adults gather? Which parts did they throw away? Which foods did they cook until soft? Which ones did they refuse even when hungry? A child did not need to discover every danger personally. The group carried the hard lessons. That group memory could become amazingly detailed. Some foods are safe only in one season. Some are safe after boiling, but risky raw. Some parts of a plant are useful, while other parts are trouble. Ancient people turned landscapes into mental maps of trust and warning. These maps were not drawn on paper. They were stored in songs, gestures, routines, habits, and repeated stories around fire. This tree gives fruit after rain. This nut must be cracked and roasted. This patch is good. That mushroom is trouble wearing a tiny hat. And because humans are curious, they kept expanding the map. A strange plant could be poison, but it could also become a new food. A shellfish could be dangerous, but it could feed everyone. Too much fear meant starvation. Too much bravery meant disaster. Survival lived in the middle between curiosity and caution. That balance is still inside us. Disgust pushes us away from rot, waste, disease, and contamination. Curiosity pulls us toward new flavors. Caution taps the brakes before curiosity becomes a funeral plan. Your modern brain may use electricity, but some of its food instincts are ancient. When spoiled food makes you gag, that is ancient survival software. When you hesitate before eating something unfamiliar, that is ancient caution raising one eyebrow. When bitter medicine makes your face collapse into a tiny tragedy, your body remembers that bitter once deserved suspicion. Even picky eating can make evolutionary sense. A small child in a wild environment who refused unfamiliar leaves might have been annoying at dinner, but also safer. No thank you. Suspicious leaf is not always bad manners. Sometimes it is a tiny survival strategy. Modern life changed the game. We have refrigeration, inspections, cooking standards, labels, microbiology, and people whose job is to stop your sandwich from becoming a biology experiment. But the old system did not vanish. It moved quietly into the background of everyday behavior. Your nose still checks food before your logic finishes the paperwork. Your face reacts before your brain can write a polite explanation. Your stomach still votes strongly against certain decisions, and your social brain still watches what other people eat. That is why a crowded food place feels safer than an empty one with one lonely soup. That is why people read reviews. That is why we ask, did you try it? Before tasting something strange, we still use group knowledge, just with stars instead of campfire stories. So how did ancient humans know which food was safe? Not with one magic trick, they had a survival orchestra. Observation, smell, taste, memory, fire, culture, caution, curiosity. Stories, and the very useful social phrase that probably meant, maybe not that one. The label was not paper. The label was a grandmother-esque warning, an elder-esque gesture, a bird-esque behavior. A child's disgusted face, a smoky fire, a bad memory, and one mushroom sitting in the dirt, looking way too confident. Our ancestors survived because they were learners. They turned danger into knowledge. They turned knowledge into tradition. They turned tradition into dinner. And thousands of years later, we still carry their quiet lessons in our noses, tongues, stomachs, fears, habits, and curiosity. The ancient food label is still inside us, blinking softly whenever something smells wrong. So if you had to survive 1 week as an ancient human with no labels, no internet, no refrigerator, and one very confident bird eating mysterious berries nearby, would you trust the bird, trust your instincts, trust the tribe, or wait for someone else to take the first very risky tiny bite?